What up, Mr. Chang? Hello, hello. Yes, indeed. Senate vote is happening. After all of the craziness today. What's up, Bahana? What do you mean by not a bad start after all? Like for oh, I see. I get it. The irony. It took me a second. Let's see. Maybe we'll just watch this for right now. Wait, are they still voting? What a day is right. Wait, why am I getting no sound here? Is sound muted? I will indeed. Ahana, I can go over that stuff.
Secure.
Oh, there is just no sound right now. I'm not sure what they're doing right now. Does anyone know what they're doing in the Senate right now? Looks like just kind of nothing. Okay. Let me get myself set up here. I think it looks like they must have finished all of their speeches, right? And now it looks maybe they're just actually doing the tabulation, which is why there's no one talking. Everyone's just sort of milling about. Maybe. All right. So anti-parallel, huh? So, I mean, it's not that complicated. It's just a definitional thing. So let's open up a paint here. Let's move this over here and make this smaller. Move this. Get everything in the right proportion here. We'll go a little tinier.
On this vote, the yeas are 6, the nays are 93. The objection is not sustained. The Secretary will notify the House of the action of the Senate, informing that body that the Senate is now ready to proceed to joint session with further counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President. Majority Leader.
Mr. President.
Okay, so they just...
Colleagues, here's where we are.
Now they're going to count.
We have a few more speakers now.
Okay. So when you have a DNA strand, you have, let's say, so I'm going to draw this in a very like rudimentary form. So you've got, I'm just going to draw it as just sort of like a ladder, boom, and then there's our backbones. Here's our bases down. So here's our bases, right? So the way this is going to work is essentially the ends of the strands are labeled with a scheme. This is called 5' end of the strand, and this is the 3' end of the strand. And the prime, the 5 and the 3', those numbers come from the carbons on the sugar in the backbone. So if I were to draw like a single nucleotide, it would look in a rudimentary form. You've got your phosphate, you've got your 5-carbon sugar, and you've got your base. Right, so here's your phosphate, I'll abbreviate it as P, your sugar, and your base. What's up, Sanjay? So if you really get into sort of the detail of a DNA strand, they number the carbons on the sugar. You've got like I think the way it is like it goes, if I remember correctly, it's like, how does it go again? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a 5th one here. There's like 5 is right there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is actually an oxygen technically right here. So it doesn't count as 1 carbon. That's an oxygen at the top there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that the 5 is kind of up here and the 3 is down here. So when you have these all stacked in a row, what this is saying is that the 5' carbon in the sugar is up above the 3' when we're looking at it this way. On the opposite side, the nucleotides would be the other way. So the 3' is on this side and the 5' is on this side. And so what you say is that these two strands are anti-parallel to each other because they are running in opposite directions. So we would say these are anti-parallel. What's up, Yassine? Yeah, the project is due next Thursday. Not 100% sure if my drawing made enough sense there for you, Ahana. If not, let me know. Let's make this a little smaller over here. We don't need to have that too visible. I'm trying to cram as much into my screen for you guys as I can. Make sure the chat is readable. Maybe I'll shorten up the chat there like that. So yeah, that's kind of the way, oopsie. That's kind of the idea. I'll move this back over here actually. So the 5 and 3' is determined by the sugar and the nucleotide. Yes, exactly. Which then determines the way we talk about the orientation of the strand, ultimately. So Ashi, is the direction of the DNA pointing to the 3 or the 5? Well, you don't really say it's pointing to the 3 or the 5. You're saying that on this side of the strand, right here, let's say the right side, this strand is oriented in such a way where the 5' carbon is quote unquote on top or above the 3'. So the 5' is closer to the top of the strand than the 3' sugar. On this side, it would be upside down. So instead, you would have you'd have your base connected to your sugar, but notice on this side, the sugar, I'm drawing it sort of upside down, and then your phosphate. So the 5 prime, the 5 is here, and the 3 would be here. Right? And then on this side, you have your base, and then it's sort of this orientation connected to your phosphate. And now the 5 is here, and the 3 is here. So you'll notice that it's the orientation of the nucleotide, whether it's sort of upside down or not. I didn't get to eat my dinner tonight. I got kind of distracted, so.
As we wait for the House to finish their debate and vote. We expect the House to finish voting on Arizona between 11:30 and midnight.
Yep, exactly, Ahana.
Ask unanimous consent the Senate be in a period of morning business with the following senators permitted to speak therein for up to 5 minutes each.
That's kind of the way to
Toomey,
think about it.
Senator Rubio, Senator Collins.
And on our side, Senators Wyden, Hirono, and Coons.
Finally, following their remarks, the Senate stand in recess subject to the call of the chair.
No.
Maybe not. We may have, okay, so we'll figure it out.
The Senate be in a period of morning business with the following senators permitted to speak therein for up to 5 minutes each.
Yep,
Toomey,
that's
Rubio,
exactly right.
Collins.
Wyden, Hirono, and Coons.
So
Without objection.
the way to think about it is just the two sides of the DNA strand. One is upside down compared to the other side. And so because they're facing different directions,
Not many will.
we say they're anti-parallel to each other.
This isn't yours, right?
So we're in recess.
So it's kind of like you have like a like imagine a freeway. All right, let's say you have a freeway, right? Down the middle of a freeway, you usually have a divider. Right? So here's your divider. And on one side, you've got your 2 lanes. On the other side, you've got your 2 lanes. Let's say it's a small highway. Cars are going this direction on this side of the freeway, and they're going this direction on this side. Those 2 freeways are anti-parallel to each other.
Senator from Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I appreciate the indulgence of my colleagues allowing me to speak twice today, but my understanding is that later this evening, objectors will object to the certification of Pennsylvania's electoral votes because they disapprove of the process that my state used in the last election.
Senator, will the senators suspend for a minute? Please take your conversations out of the chamber. The senator deserves to be heard. Senator's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in light of my expectation of this objection, I rise to defend the right of my citizens, my constituents, to vote in the presidential election. And let's be clear, that's exactly
What's up,
what
Aria?
this
How are you?
objection is about. It's what it would do. It would overturn the results of the presidential election in Pennsylvania, and it would thereby deny Pennsylvania's voters the opportunity to even participate in the presidential election. Mr. President, even if Congress did have the constitutional responsibility to judge the worthiness of a state's election process, which it does not, rejecting Pennsylvania's electoral votes would still be wildly out of proportion to the purported offenses and very damaging to our republic. Let me go through a few facts about Pennsylvania. First, some of the objectors, and in fact even the President of the United States this morning, have observed that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court disregarded existing law when it ruled that mail-in ballots could be counted even if they arrived up to 3 days after the election day. Now, the objectors are right about that. In my view, the Supreme Court of the United States should overturn that illegal decision. But, Mr. President, only 10,097 ballots arrived in Pennsylvania during the 3 days after the election. And those 10,097 ballots have been excluded from the vote count that resulted in President-elect Biden winning Pennsylvania by about 80,000 votes. What greater remedy could the objectors possibly want than the complete exclusion of the late arriving ballots? How could we possibly invalidate the entire Pennsylvania election over 10,000 votes that were not even included in the vote count? A second charge we heard, and the senator from Missouri alluded to it this evening, is a 2019 Pennsylvania
The 5 and
law
3
that
prime
allows
labeled
mail-in
carbons of the
ballots
sugar
for any
molecule
reason that
are
might
the 5 and
violate the
3
Pennsylvania
prime labeled
Constitution.
carbons of the sugar
First
molecule
of all,
in the
as Senator
nucleotide.
Casey observed,
Are they
this
in
is
the
a bipartisan
nucleotide?
law passed with nearly
Yeah.
unanimous Republican support.
This
Clearly,
whole
the
thing is a
state
nucleotide.
legislators and the governor
Right
believe
here.
it is consistent with the Pennsylvania Constitution.
That whole thing is a
Secondly, this law
nucleotide.
was not
So
challenged
because
when it was
the
passed.
5 and
It wasn't
3
challenged when it was,
prime carbons
applied
are in
during
the
the
sugar, and the
June
sugar is part of the
primary election.
nucleotide. Therefore, the carbons are
It was
also
only
part of the
challenged after
nucleotide.
President Trump lost the general election. But 2.6 million Pennsylvanians
Let's see if I can
voted
find
by mail-in
a
ballot in the general
better.
election. Over
Let's find a picture of
37% of Pennsylvania voters in good faith relied on a law to cast their votes as they had done previously. Now, I understand you
Don't
can make
rely
a
on my
theoretical
shoddy
argument
drawings.
about whether this is consistent with Pennsylvania's Constitution.
All right, let's take this. So here,
And that needs to be resolved for future elections. But because of this constitutional question that some people
All right,
have,
so here's our
the
nucleotide.
objectors want to prevent Pennsylvania voters from
let's
participating in the
shrink
presidential
this
election
down just a
entirely.
little bit.
That would be an outrageous remedy.
So again, you got those 3 parts that we always talk about:
A third charge we've heard is that Pennsylvania
Phosphate.
officials did not properly
phosphate, pentose, sugar, and a nitrogen base. If I there we go, brush. If I were to label my sugars here, it doesn't show, or excuse me, label my carbons. It doesn't actually have the carbons written on here. But there's a carbon there, there's a carbon there, there's a carbon there, there's a carbon there, right? Now, let's label these the way they are. This is 1 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, 4 prime, and there is your 5 prime sugar. So these are, sorry, not 5 prime sugar, 5 prime carbon on the sugar. So if these carbons are part of the nucleotide because this whole thing is a nucleotide. And that is 1 unit of DNA. That's 1 monomer of DNA.
implement Pennsylvania election law in a variety of other ways. but the Trump campaign has shown that many of these issues have, well, first of all, none of these issues would have changed the election outcome, but more importantly, the campaign had many opportunities of which it availed itself to litigate these issues. They did time and again, and they lost repeatedly,
No problem.
often in unanimous bipartisan decisions. Now, some of the objectors also cite Congress's own failure to investigate allegations of election irregularities, and that's their justification for refusing to certify the election results. But the allegations of election irregularities and fraud have been investigated. They've been adjudicated. They were adjudicated in the states in which they're alleged to have occurred. Now, in Pennsylvania, the Trump campaign took their case of election irregularities into the courtroom of Judge Matthew Brand of Federal District Court. Judge Brand is a conservative Republican Federalist Society member. And here's what he said about the Trump campaign.
Can I elaborate a little more on the
This
primer
court has been presented with strained
concept?
legal arguments without merit and speculative accusations unsupported by evidence.
So the primer concept, you mean like when we're talking about DNA replication? Or you mean prime as in the 5' sugar? Let's find a good image. If you're talking about DNA replication, let's find a good image here. Oh, you're talking about the 5 and the 3. Okay. Well, okay, so I think maybe I'm not sure what else I can really elaborate on here. When I say 5' and 4', are you confused at like why I'm saying prime? Like why is it not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but why is it 1', 2', 3', 4', and 5'? I'm not actually 100% sure if that's your question. But we can look it up. Let's see if we can find some answers here, because I'm not 100% sure about this one. Let's see. What can we look up? Why is it called 5' and 3'? They might just say because it's the sugar, right? One end is referred to as 5 and the other is for 3'. The 5 and 3 designations refer to the number of a carbon atom in the deoxyribose molecule. Right, but like why do they call it prime? Yeah, see, here's a better picture. Maybe this is more clear. 5' end and the 3' end. Let's see. Does this give us any information? Not really. Oh, good old Quora. What does prime stand for? 5', 3'. What is the purpose of using a dash? What does a dash represent? Okay, here we go. Let's see if this person knows. No, it's still just the label for the carbon atom, but I actually am not sure why they use this as a label. Five prime, 3'. Here the ends are labeled and each red dot denotes a 5' carbon while each dot loads a 3'. This is important. For example, this person is given a full-on answer for the structure of DNA and then getting into DNA replication with a full-on diagram. But does not explain why they use the labeling of prime rather than just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one is a mystery to me. I don't know. Person didn't really answer the question. I can do a bit better. Let's see. Note that after a nucleotide is added, there is still a free 3' hydroxyl. Oh, that denotes prime in terms of chemistry. So it's a chemistry thing. The prime symbol, double prime symbol, and triple prime symbol are used to designate several different units and for various other purposes in mathematics. The scientists. Oh, well, that's just prime. The prime symbol is very similar to water. You know what? I think. Okay, so apparently the apostrophes were added by biochemists to suit their needs. To a chemist, carbon is king. To a biochemist, the general direction of DNA is more important. To a chemist, the number and connectivity of carbon varies, so a chemist nomenclature caters to the need to be descriptive of this feature of organic molecules. To a biochemist, the backbone of DNA remains constant. There is no need for specificity imposed by the chemist. The apostrophe is a generalization used to refer to the 3' or 5' end of the sugar phosphate backbone. The apostrophe may be used to refer to carbon or oxygen phosphate. This flexibility suits a biochemist. Yeah, it looks like it's just a nomenclature thing. It's just a way it's used. And it seems like most chemists don't use apostrophes, but biochemists do because they care about different things. So it's very, it looks like, and again, this is not like the best source. I'm using Quora here, which is. In molecular biology, the dash called prime is used to denote the positions of carbon on a ring of deoxyribonucleic. The prime distinguishes places on these two chemicals. Yeah. What? This person is not answering the question. Sure, 3 and 5. Okay, technically 3 and 5 are prime numbers, but they're not. It's not 5 and 3 prime because they're prime numbers. See, this is why you get into. This is where you can get wrong with some of your Quora answers. People throwing in stuff that's just completely unrelated. Yeah. Seems like just a way of biochemists helps biochemists in some way or another to label it with an apostrophe. That's all I can really do for you.
In the United States of America,
good question, though.
this cannot
I didn't know the
justify
answer.
the disenfranchisement of a single voter, let alone all the voters of the 6th most populated state. End quote. So the campaign then appealed Judge Brand's decision to the Third Circuit, and they drew a 3-judge panel, all Republican-appointed judges, one appointed by President Trump. The panel concurred with Judge Brand. Mr. President, certainly there were irregularities in this election. There always are. But there's no evidence of significant fraud, conspiracies, or even significant anomalies that cast any serious doubt on who actually won the election. And you know, one of the ways you can tell is look at the big picture in Pennsylvania. Look at what happened. In 2016, President Trump won Pennsylvania by 0.8%. In 2020, he lost Pennsylvania by a little over 1%. Now, is there anything at all that's implausible or surprising about a 2% change in the election outcome? Relative to 2016, in Pennsylvania, the president lost a little ground in most of the rural counties he had carried. He lost a lot of ground in the big suburban counties, and he slightly narrowed his large loss in Philadelphia. There's no surprises here. This reflects a pattern that occurred all across the country. My colleagues, as I've said, it is not our responsibility to sit in judgment of state election procedures in the first place. But if it were, there would not be nearly sufficient reason to deny my constituents their right to participate in this presidential election. Mr. President, Joe Biden won the election. That's not what I had hoped for, but that's what happened. It was an honest victory, with the usual minor irregularities that occur in most elections. We witnessed today the damage that can result when men in power and responsibility refuse to acknowledge the truth. We saw bloodshed because the demagogue chose to spread falsehoods and sow distrust of his own fellow Americans. Let's not abet such deception. Let's reject this motion.
Mr. President, with just a few minutes to speak, I'm going to get right to the point. Gunfire in the halls here, IEDs on the Capitol grounds. I will say to my colleagues, I've been stunned that with the domestic terrorists roaming the halls
So it seems
a
like
few hours ago, I've been
even
stunned that
Republicans
this debate
are
is
now kind
actually
of
going
saying
forward.
that Trump needs to kind of
That's
let go of
because,
the whole election fraud thing.
colleagues, this is a
You know,
fake
there's like, you know, it's
debate
time. It's time. Like
on
this, come on, dude.
electoral certification. That's because it lends credibility to the bogus idea.
Oh man, did Billy Bob
that
finish
the
his
Congress can
monster Coliseum
actually
over there?
toss out the results of the election. And as we saw today, it serves to fuel insurrection.
Go take a
Now,
peek.
contrary to what some of my I-voting colleagues believe, with I-votes cast just a few minutes ago, this debate has never been about setting up some kind of routine election tribunal. This isn't about election security. If the Republican majority for the last 2 years had actually been interested in election security, they would not have
Wow,
worked
this thing looks pretty
relentlessly
legitimate.
to block my legislation to secure our 2020 elections with hand-marked paper ballots.
I really don't know how long this would have taken.
Election
How long did this
security
take you?
audits. By the way, those are the kinds of approaches that are part of the Oregon system, where for 25 years we voted by mail. I'm the nation's first mail-in United States senator. The second, and
Whoa,
I
what
see
is
my
up there?
colleagues from Maine and Alaska here
Is there any way to
because
get up to
they're
the
very
top?
fond
though?
of him like I was. Gordon Smith, a Republican, was the second
A week? That's pretty
mail-in
impressive to build
United
this
States
entire thing in a
senator
week.
in our country. That's because we do the job right. It's efficient. Our late Republican Secretary of State, Dennis Richardson, actually told President Trump there was
Was it like a
no
chandelier up
evidence
there?
of fraud.
Kind of hard to tell.
So if Republicans had been interested over the last 2 years in actually working with me and colleagues on both sides of the aisle and secretaries of state, we could have had an approach that would have empowered the Oregon idea to go national. Instead, we're now debating tonight idea of a discussion grounded in total fiction, brewed in cauldrons of conspiracies online. These colleagues are fever dreams laundered by people with election certificates and real power. And I will tell you, it's been painful to watch colleagues sidle up to some of those conspiracies that would inflict so much damage to the American experiment. Colleagues, I'm going to close with one last point. We saw today an effort by domestic terrorists to try to punch our democracy to the ground, to the ropes. And I'm going to close by simply saying something that hadn't been said tonight, and that is Donald Trump can do enormous damage to our country in the next 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, colleagues, Donald Trump can do enormous damage to our wonderful country. This afternoon, I don't know if my colleagues saw it, the National Association of Manufacturers, an organization with thousands of businesses, thousands of companies, and not exactly a left-wing outfit. They called for moving forward with the 25th Amendment. All over the news already, colleagues, this afternoon, the National Association of Manufacturers. That's what we're seeing in our country with respect to the fear of Americans having watched what happened here. So I'm just going to close by way of saying, I believe that for the next 2 weeks, we have an enormous responsibility to watchdog Donald Trump day in and day out, to do everything possible to prevent the kind of abuses
Okazaki fragments,
that we
yeah.
saw today, where an American
Okazaki fragments. So Okazaki fragments is just the term because they were discovered by, scientists love to name stuff after themselves when they figure stuff out. It's kind of like the way that they try and like keep their name, forever placed in history. So Okazaki fragments are these little pieces of, if you look at, let's find a good picture of a DNA replication moment. Let's find some good DNA reps. Good DNA reps. I always find like a good picture, but then it's like super low resolution. This one might be okay. A little complex though. This one. Okay. So oh wait, that was cut off. That's not the image I want. 1 second. Get away from these cows. They're bothering me. Their noise. You would think they would have. They could just find a very simple. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I want. Oh my God, the resolution is so low. Might end up having to draw this myself. Okay, this one's good. There we go. Okay. So here's a very simple DNA replication diagram. Let's say, so an Okazaki fragment is all that it is. You can kind of see it here on this diagram. All that it really is a piece of DNA. It's not free nucleotides. A free nucleotide would be a nucleotide that's just sort of like floating. A piece of DNA has been created on the lagging strand during the replication process. That piece is called an Okazaki fragment, right? So because the lagging strand has to be made sort of like piece by piece, each little piece that's created is called an Okazaki fragment. So like that's just an Okazaki fragment. That's an Okazaki fragment. And eventually, these will get joined together to form one long completed strand. But we call them Okazaki fragments in the meantime before it's all connected into one long strand. So that's all an Okazaki fragment is. It's just a term for a segment of DNA on the lagging strand during DNA replication. Ashi, in the RNA is the RNA primer placed by primase? Wait, so that, I think I'm reading your question correct. I think you might have a typo in there. I'm assuming you mean placed by primase. Yes, Ahana, they only occur in the lagging strand. They only occur in the lagging strand. Because in the leading strand, the sequence of the DNA is created in one continuous strand. There is no fragments, there's no chunks. But the lagging strand is made in a little bit more of an awkward way. I always like to think of it as like the leading strand is super smooth, so easy. It just, it's replicated continuously in one smooth motion. Whereas the lagging strand is like this sort of awkward strand that has to be made in little chunks as the DNA unravels. And those little chunks are the Okazaki fragments. That correct. Okay, so Ahana, Ashi, you're asking, in the RNA primer, placed by primase, would it then be uracil bonding with adenine instead of thymine bonding with adenine because of the RNA? Yes, that is true. Anytime you have RNA, you always have U in place of T. So we know, right, in DNA that A pairs with T and G pairs with C. So if there's an A on the strand of DNA, it'll be a U instead. You want me to go over what annealing is? Sure. Let's see if I can find a good diagram. Although, I might be able to just explain it using this one. Not really a picture of annealing. So, I mean, you see it on this diagram. It's just not really labeled. So basically, annealing is the process by which you connect two strands of DNA together. So as this strand is being formed, this new red strand is being formed and connected to this older blue strand, that's the template. What's happening is the bases are annealing together. They're being joined together. They're connecting. And so that's just kind of the term that we use when you have two bases getting connected by hydrogen bonds. So the annealing is occurring as a new nucleotide is being hydrogen bonded to the old one. So everything, all of these individual bonds here where you have bases connected, these are all annealed. They've been annealed, aka hydrogen bonds have been formed between the strands. So basically you can say annealing is occurring on the leading strand and on the lagging strand as DNA is being replicated. Think of it like if you zip up, like imagine zipping up a jacket that has a zipper on it. Right, so you have like your zipper is kind of coming together like that, right? That you can kind of think of that as like your zipper is annealing as the teeth of the zipper start to come together. That's the idea of what annealing is. So it's just a fancy term to describe process of hydrogen bonding between two nucleotides or two complementary bases. What do I want to do? Yep, exactly, Ahana. That's a good summary of it. All right, what I want to do is I want to make this wall that I built around the perimeter of the base is actually not really that attractive. I want to make it look a little better. But the question is, like, what do I want to do here? No problem, Arya. It was a good question. It's kind of a weird word, annealing.
Lost her life. We saw the fear among our citizens
Why
of
is the
what went
volume
on.
so low in this YouTube video?
Let's do everything we can as leaders, Democrats and Republicans, to
guess
make
it's not
sure in the
terribly
next
low.
2 weeks Donald Trump's abuses are checked. We do everything we can to protect this wonderful nation of ours. President, I yield the floor.
All right, this looks pretty good. This is holding up pretty decently. Yeah, so let me think about what I want to do with this. What do I want to do with this? Ooh, we got a bee. That's so
The
cool.
senator from Florida is recognized.
President, over the last weeks and days leading up to this vote here today, I've heard from a lot of people about this vote, and I guess I want to address it as much to them as anybody else. And these are people that I know. These are friends. These are neighbors. These are longtime supporters, generally people on my side of the political aisle. And they're upset. They're upset. They look at the media, and the media, they censored stories that might
think
have been
everything
negative
looks
towards
good
Joe Biden or
here.
were negative towards Joe Biden. The social media companies helped
Our
them out.
slime farm coming.
And they saw how some states tinkered with and even mutilated state election laws, and they have doubts that the election was legitimate. And it gives this country this
There's
extraordinary
more slime.
crisis of confidence, which is very dangerous because democracy is very fragile, and it's not held together by elections. Democracy is held together by people's confidence in the election and their willingness to
Actually
abide
pretty
by
good.
its
This
results.
thing's working pretty nice.
And so the notion was, we need to do
What
something. We need
slime
to
do we
fight.
have?
Several of my colleagues
We almost got a full chest. We might add a
adopted the
chest to
idea,
this.
and I respect it, that they're going to object. Now,
Nice, I like
it's
those
important to
bees,
understand something.
Ethan. Those
Even
look
the
pretty
people
cool.
objecting in the Senate
Nice
recognize
touch to the
that's not
base
gonna
having little
pass.
bees. Bees are my favorite
It's not going to
insect.
change the outcome, but it's going to send a message, and it's going to make a point. The
Nice.
problem is, I think it's a terrible idea at this moment. Just hours ago, a young lady died in this Capitol. That means somebody somewhere in this country got a phone call that their daughter was dead. Daughter was going to a political rally, she is dead. Died in this Capitol, somewhere not far from where we are standing. We had police officers, the men and women that we walk by every single day that guard the doors and we say hello to, out there with riot gear getting spit on and attacked. Today, not 10 weeks ago, just a few hours ago. And I think it's important to think about all those things on a night like tonight and everything that's happened. You know, I wouldn't even be here today. I doubt very much where I would even have been interested in politics had it not been for my grandfather. He died when I was 14, but I grew up at his knee. He would sit on the porch, he would smoke 3 cigars a day, and he loved history. He was born in
I
1899
can
in rural
add some
Cuba.
like
It was
quartz or
still
something
governed by the United States. It was a protectorate.
to this to make it
3
look
years
like a
later,
better.
it gained its independence and became a republic.
Actually, let's look this up. Let's
During
look up,
my
see if there's any
grandfather's
good.
first 60 years of life, he saw his country have an armed insurrection after a contested election, multiple presidents go into exile, 2 military coups, and the rise of a Marxist dictator. A tyranny that stands to this day. My entire life, I have lived with and next to people who came to America because their country was chaotic and their country was
Oh
unsafe.
wow, these are good.
What I saw today, what we have seen, looks more like those countries than the extraordinary nation that I am privilege to call
That's actually
home.
kind of a nice touch.
And I think about the mockery that it makes of our
Little
country.
indentations, but that's like
A lot of
1, 2,
people, oh, well,
3
China,
bricks.
China. No, let me just say something. In all modesty,
Deep.
no one here has worked harder on the issue of China. They hate
They
my
added
guts.
some foliage, which looks
I'm
pretty nice.
sanctioned, twice sanctioned. I don't know what they're sanctioning. Double sanctioned, and I can't travel there. I wasn't
It's also a
planning to
mix.
anyway.
It's bricks, it's cobblestone,
laughing.
and it looks like just regular
They're
stone
loving
as
this
well,
tonight.
sort of scattered throughout.
Beijing,
Gives it a
they're
little more of a
high-fiving
rustic
because
look.
They point to this and say, "This is proof. The future
Do leading
belongs
and
to
lagging
China.
strands have
America's
anything
in
to do with the
decline." Vladimir
primes?
Putin,
Yeah. So if you look at that
Vladimir Putin
that
could've come up with better
picture I had here,
than what happened here.
when the
Makes us
let's
look like we're
clear.
in total chaos and collapse.
Let's do.
Not to mention the Ayatollah, who's probably
Let's go back. Get rid of all this. Oops. So oh my god, it's too long. So the leading and lagging strand does have something to do with the 5 and 3 prime sugar, because the lagging strand is always going to be sequenced towards the 5 prime end of the template strand, right? And the leading strand will also always be sequenced along the strand towards the 5 prime. So when you make a new strand of DNA, it has to be made from 5 to 3 in that direction. So it's always going to be made from 5 to 3. And so that means that the leading strand, because it's going 5 to 3, can just go smoothly. But the lagging strand, because it's going 5 to 3 as well, but the orientation of the template strand is reversed, it's going to have to be made in chunks. Ashi, will you be expected to have to memorize the diagrams for each nitrogen base? Oh, not on a chemical level, no. No, I would expect you to know what a nucleotide looks like, right? Like if I gave you a picture of a nucleotide, but I wouldn't expect you to be able to draw like the difference between a adenine and a guanine, for example, and like know the chemical difference at the level of the actual, makeup of the base. However, you should just be able to spot and understand what a nucleotide looks like in general. The question is, how do they get these leaves on here, though? Oh, maybe Silk Touch. That's actually not bad. Silk Touch. So if I take a Silk Touch pickaxe and I do this. There we go. Oh, whoa. Wait, who's messing around here? Let's see. Oh, wait, you can use shears also on a tree? Huh. And that's actually way faster than a silk pickaxe. Alright, let's get a bunch of these. We're going to make this wall a little more rustic, a little kind of more aesthetic. Do a little aesthetic work today. Don't need to worry too much about ender dragons right now. It's a little too stressful. All right. Ashi, would we have to know the chemical difference between, say, adenine and guanine? All you would have to know is the difference between the two in terms of their you need to know, well, you need, not like at a chemical level, you do need to know like that one has 2 rings and the other has 1 ring, that they're different, but I wouldn't ask you to like draw them out. Go adding some more books to the library. Bye, Ahana. Have a good night. Okay, how do we do this to make this look a little better? What's up, Gita? Do we have to cite images for Ape's presentation? Yeah, you should have a slide at the very end with your sources, but for images, I say would just, as long as you have like a little, you could just even just like copy and paste the link from where you got the image and just put it in small font underneath the image on the slide, or you could cite it separately on at the end of the slide too. It's kind of up to you how you want to do that. Whatever's easier for you. Okay. So trying to think of how we can do this to make this look nicer. No problem. It's kind of cool. These are cool too. Ooh, oops, this is a video. Pretty tall though. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 tall. It's gonna be a lot of bricks. If we're gonna go 6 tall, we do have a lot.
Bragging, if he has buddies, to his buddies, look what's happening to the great Satan. I think politics has made us crazy. Everybody in this country has lost their minds on politics. And we have forgotten that America is not a government. America's not a president. America's not a Congress. Let me tell you what America is. America's your family. America's your faith. America's your community. That's America. That's what our adversaries don't understand, and that's what we need to remember. That
Build a
is how we're going
smaller
to rebuild
version
this country and turn the page and have a future
of
even
this
brighter than our past. And so that's why I feel so strongly about this, and why I hope those who disagree with me will understand. I yield the floor.
Okay. Let's see how long it takes to make just a small section of this.
The senator from Hawaii is recognized.
Mr. President, it has been hard at times to find the words to describe the full harm Donald Trump has inflicted on our country. We can spend hours dissecting how his policies have made us less safe, less healthy, but his presidency has also been a profound moral failure. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a father from Hawaii joined me at one of my talk story sessions in my office. And he asked me a question that struck me hard at that time and has stuck with me until today. He said, "How can I tell my son that lying is not okay when the President of the United States lies every single day?"
True.
I struggled to answer his question then, and I'm not sure I could offer an adequate answer now. But this conversation remains a clear example of how we do not live in normal times. How is it normal as we and the world watched in horror as an angry mob stormed the United States Capitol? Blood was shed, people were hurt, vandalism occurred. It is not normal when we have a president who lies every single day. And
What's up,
even in the
creepy
face
stalker?
of this vandalism, this mob, he really doesn't have much to say except, "I love you, you should go home now." It's not normal when in the middle of a pandemic that has claimed the lives of over 350,000 Americans, which is nearly the combined population of the islands of Maui and the Big Island, we have a president who only seems to care about spreading conspiracies to undermine confidence in our elections and our democracy. And it's not normal when duly elected senators who took an oath to uphold the Constitution pull a stunt to try and nullify millions of votes in 6 states so that Donald Trump can remain president. I call this effort a stunt because it is doomed to fail. We have a strong bipartisan majority, as noted in the vote that we just took, and both chambers of Congress
Okay, let's
who
take a look at
reject this stunt.
I
And
like
courts have ruled
this.
against Trump
This one's
and his
nice.
allies in
I
more
like
than
this one here.
60 cases.
I like the green and the
So
wood.
whenever this farce ends, the
So this
result
looks to
will be
me
the same.
like
Donald Trump
a
will have lost the
staircase.
election, and Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. You can tell a lot about a person from the way they handle defeat. The way Donald Trump has handled defeat says a lot about who he is. Watching so many of our colleagues indulge the president tells us a lot about them, too. We don't have to look back very far in history to find examples of candidates who lost tough
some of
races
this,
but demonstrated
some
their
of that.
character in defeat. Our
And
colleague,
these,
Senator
and
Romney,
these, and these.
graciously conceded
we
his defeat
some
to President
stairs, some
Obama in
slabs.
noting that, quote, "At a time like this, we can't risk partisan bickering and political posturing. Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work, and we citizens also have to rise to the occasion." And in 2000, during an election with substantial irregularities and partisan intervention from the Supreme Court, Al Gore nevertheless put his country first, and he said, "Let there be no doubt that while I strongly disagree with the court's decision, I accept it. And tonight, for the sake of our unity as a people and the strength of our democracy, I offer my concession." As I reflect on the service of these distinguished public servants and the acts they took to maintain our democracy, I'm also drawn to remarks President Obama made 4 years ago in his farewell address to
let's
the nation
do-
when he warned that our
Okay, so it looks like
democracy
it's gonna be-
is threatened whenever we take it for granted. It is a particularly sage warning as we contend with the President of the United States
Step.
seeking to nullify a free and fair election simply because he lost. We have to stand up, speak out, and fight back because our democracy itself is at stake.
No, actually.
American democracy has endured over the centuries in large part because our institutions
That-
serve as guardrails to keep us from going over the
Then
cliff.
it's-
As elected officials, we can strengthen these guardrails by listening to our own conscience in moments of peril, by having what our friend John Lewis called an executive session with myself. Before making a big decision, John would say, "Listen, self, this is what you must do. This is where you must go." Today, we can follow John's example. Listen to our conscience. Stand up for our Constitution and do what's right. I yield the floor.
No, that's not right. I was right originally. It's like this.
The senator from Maine is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from
Mr.
Maine.
President, let me begin my remarks
Do I know
tonight
around
by
when the test is going to be?
expressing my
Yeah,
heartfelt
the
gratitude
test.
to the members of the law enforcement community and
The test is looking
National
like it's
Guard,
going to be
whose hard work
on
and
January
courage made it
24th and
possible
23rd.
for us to resume
Somewhere around this
our
time.
deliberations tonight.
January 23rd, 23rd,
We
24th.
returned to this
So you're
chamber
looking at, like,
tonight, undeterred
3 weeks.
by the violence we witnessed and
Comes up quick.
strengthened in our determination to fulfill our constitutional duty. Mr. President, the Constitution is the foundation of our American democracy, and the Constitution is
That's
what
not right.
must
This has gotta
guide
be
our
a slab, then?
decisions on the presidential election. The process the Constitution sets forth for electing presidents through the Electoral College is straightforward. The people vote. Electors are chosen.
Then this
The
goes bingo,
electors
bongo.
vote. Then Congress counts
Short answer,
the
I
electors'
believe
votes.
the answer is no.
That
I don't think we're going to have a
final
short
step
answer
in
for
the
this one.
process is why we have convened today. Counting the votes of the electors, a
I think we're gonna
function that
just
the
do this.
12th
Oops,
Amendment
not these ones.
assigns to Congress, is an
I
administrative
want to say it's
and
this.
largely ceremonial act.
This is hard to. I'm just
Our
doing this based off a
job
picture. I think
is
it's like this so
simply
far.
to count the votes
No problem, Ashi.
certified by each
Anytime.
state. Nothing more. We should not attempt to usurp the roles of
gotta
the
keep laying these ones
voters,
down when I want
the
these.
states, or the electoral
I
college.
want these. And I
Mr.
think we
President,
go.
the American people have done their job, turning out in record
Wait, this
numbers
is
to
not
vote
right. What,
in the
did I
midst
mess
of a
this up? This
frightening
is a
pandemic.
3 wide, and I made this a 2
Indeed,
wide.
as a percentage of the voting eligible population, the turnout was the highest in 120 years. Similarly, in the midst of this pandemic, hundreds of election officials
It's 3
and
wide.
volunteers have done their job, staffing polling places and faithfully counting and often recounting votes. The states have done their job by certifying the election results. Now, Mr. President, I've heard the proponents of these
definitely-
objections raise
No, then this is not
questions about
here.
whether the various
That's not
states
there.
conducted their elections properly. When disputes over elections arise, candidates are able to appeal to our legal system, not Congress, for recourse. In the 2 months since the 2020 election, the president's lawyers and allies have had the opportunity to make their arguments and challenge election results before the courts. Notably, every one of nearly 60 lawsuits that they brought forward have been rejected. In fact, the Supreme Court has twice refused to hear their election challenges. Mr. President, we must abide by these
This is a thick
rulings.
wall.
The time has now come for Congress to do its job. We should affirm the certified results of each state by counting the votes of their electors. Mr. President,
This looks so much smaller in the picture than it
altering
ends up
the
being.
results of the Electoral College would set a terrible precedent in which the party in control of Congress could override the will of the voters and overrule our courts to unilaterally
Okay, I'm gonna watch a video
choose the
on this because
next
it's just not
president.
going as fast as I want.
One senator attempted such a maneuver after the election in 2004, and the Senate overwhelmingly rejected that effort. The Senate has demonstrated by its vote tonight.
All right, it doesn't even
that
tell
it
you
will
how to do
follow
it.
That precedent
Just like
and do
shows
so
you
again.
as it glides by. Like there's the
Today,
wall I'm trying to build.
Tonight, Mr. President, I will continue to vote to reaffirm the foundation of our democracy, the Constitution of the United States, and I will reject these challenges to the Electoral College. Thank you, Mr. President.
Raid-proof wall.
Mr. President,
The senator from Oregon is recognized.
Mr. President, I invite all of my colleagues to cast your eyes upon these three boxes sitting on the table in front of the dais. These three boxes contain the certified results from every state in our union regarding how that state voted, how their electors have voted for the President of the United States of America. You know, you cast your eyes on these three boxes, and you know that there's something special. You see that there are straps on them holding the top on and straps around the side, and they're engraved, beautiful handle, beautiful leather work, crafted in the cabinet shop of our very Senate to say to the world that their cargo is precious. Now there's three of these boxes. The third box is brand new. It was crafted because so many states were celebrating this process that they started to use very large forms, very large envelopes, very large seals to put those ballots into, and thus a third box was needed. These boxes contain the voice of the American people weighing in as they have election after election after election. They've been used, these two smaller boxes, in the last 14 elections. They carry a voice. They are transported through those doors to the House of Representatives, where the Senate and House gather to witness the opening of the envelopes to determine who will be the President of the United States. It is our constitutional responsibility to witness the counting. That is what the Constitution calls for. Tonight, when this Senate chamber was under attack by domestic terrorists, we were held here in this room, doors locked,
Okay, apparently we ain't sleeping.
protect us with the help of the Capitol Police. They did an excellent job, and then they escorted us to a safe room. And that announcement came quickly. And when that announcement came, our senior assistant parliamentarian, Lee Hildebrand, organized the team to rescue these boxes and keep them safe. Now,
Are
thank
you
you
sleeping?
to her and the entire team that rescued the voice of the American people. Had they not done so, then the hooligans outside, disrespecting the Constitution, would have come in here and opened these boxes
Too many people
and
online.
burned the ballots, destroying the voice of the people symbolically. And I know no one in this chamber wanted something like that to happen, because we're here to defend the Constitution, to defend the integrity of the election process, not to allow it to be destroyed. But colleagues, although we are 100 senators, or 99 actually now, because there's only 99 of us who are duly elected at the moment, 99 senators united across party defending these ballots from the hooligans outside, there's more than one way these ballots can be destroyed. And that is for
Hooligans
this
outside.
chamber and the House chamber to vote that
I don't
one
know
of
if the word
those
hooligan is
envelopes
appropriate
representing
for
the state will be shredded, will be burned.
the seriousness of what they did.
those votes will be
Hooligan sounds a
discounted.
little bit less
We just held a vote
serious.
on whether or not the envelope containing the electoral votes from Arizona
Okay,
should
that
be
looks
burned.
right. I think then
We
like a slab
defended
goes on
these
top.
ballots against the hooligans outside. But there are those in this
Or wait,
chamber supporting the
actually,
destruction of the
right.
voice of the citizens of Arizona. 6 voted. And we are coming back later tonight to vote on whether to shred or burn the ballots for the people of Pennsylvania. So we have to stand together to say absolutely not. The constitutional responsibility is for us to defend the process, not to proceed to destroy these ballots. Now, in spite of all the troubling things that have happened in this chamber this evening, something beautiful happened. And that is, we sat here in this chamber, all of us listening to each other, 5-minute speeches, hearing each other out, diverse views, wrestling with a complicated issue. It's really the first time that's happened in the 12 years I've served in the Senate.
That's like that.
We need to restore the process of struggling with America's issues together on the floor of the Senate. That's the Senate I saw when I first came here as an intern
That,
for my
and
home
this
state
is-
senator in 1976.
Goes like that.
That's the Senate that I saw when I worked for Congress in the 1980s.
These guys
That's the
here.
Senate that has disappeared. There is a conversation going forward between Democrats and Republicans to restore the ability to hold debate on the floor, to restore the ability to have amendments on the floor, so that we deliberate and wrestle with, in a very public and transparent fashion, the big issues. So let's take this moment when we're rethinking how to restore the institutions of our government, to restore and improve how this Senate operates, to deal with the issues ahead of us, so that this moment is a moment where we come together rather than be divided, where in a bipartisan fashion we craft
wait a
a
minute.
strategy
How
to
does this even work?
restore issues
These-
to the floor, bills and amendments and debate and decisions before the public. So,
Wait, these are stairs?
out of a dark moment can shine a bright light, a renewal, and it is a moment much needed
Like that?
now. A moment much needed in the executive branch as we, on the 20th of January, welcome new leadership. And it's a moment much needed for us to restore the Senate to being the deliberative body once renowned and respected around the world. Let's defend
That
these
looks
ballot
right. I mean,
boxes,
that
both
is
from the
it.
hooligans outside and those who would vote to destroy the ballots from any given state.
Now,
Let us come together
that's
and
tall.
restore the Senate and fight for the
and
vision.
the question is, do you make the
our
back
We
side
the
the same as the
People
front side,
Republic.
or you just have the back side like a straight wall?
I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The senator from Delaware is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, free, fair elections are the lifeblood of our democracy. Charges of unfairness are serious. I think we'll all agree. But calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations, and then they require proof. We have neither here. Those are not my words. Those are the words of a judge on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, rejecting President Trump's legal challenges.
Maybe we do this in the front,
to the
and then this is
Pennsylvania
just sort of like the
election.
front.
Might add, a
kinda
judge
wall.
who was a longtime member of the Conservative Federalist Society and was
We'll do like
nominated
an
to the
arch
bench by none
here.
other than
Actually,
Donald Trump. Mr. President, the
It's actually
2020
perfectly lined
presidential
up with
election
this. So what
was
if we
hard
did-
fought, we'll all agree. But the American people spoke clearly
that's actually
and
not
they
perfectly
spoke
lined up. It's only two.
decisively.
This would need.
81.2 million voters voted for Joe Biden. 81.2. 74.2 million voted for Donald Trump. 51.3% of the vote went for Joe Biden.
I think we'll put this.
46.8% of the vote was for Donald Trump. 306 electoral college votes for Joe Biden. 232 electoral college votes for Donald Trump. Just 4 years earlier, Donald Trump referred to that kind of outcome as a landslide for him, and he lost a popular vote by 3 million votes. But accepting the outcome of an election
Guess
can
I'm
be
just gonna put
difficult
this
when our
over.
political party doesn't win.
What's up, Appa?
We've all felt that before.
I'm
an
trying to
election
figure out this
unfair
wall. I'm trying to make a
does
prettier
not make
exterior
it
to the
so.
base, but it's
More than
kind of
60
not
federal
easy.
and state courts involving more than 90 judges, many of whom were nominated by Republican presidents, including Donald Trump, are all in agreement. That's
Wait,
pretty amazing.
I'm not getting.
all in agreement.
I'm not getting these
No evidence of
notifications.
widespread fraud,
I just looked
wrongdoing,
at,
or other irregularities have been uncovered during the 2020 election. That's a
Wait, was
that
this
is a
just
victory
now?
for democracy, for our democracy. Unfortunately, some of our colleagues
Wait,
today
why didn't
ask
it make a
us
no-
to
why
do the
didn't
same
why
thing
didn't it do a
Donald Trump
notification?
asked of the Secretary of State for the state of Georgia to overturn the results
Wait,
of
okay,
the
so
2020
Dan, you made me
election
do my push-ups.
without
Oh gosh,
specific
hold on.
allegations.
Am I gonna regret
and,
doing
more
this?
importantly, without
Push-ups,
any
and
proof.
then somehow
Our
this is
colleagues
supposed
are
to
asking us
appear
not
in a
to abide
different,
by the
like it's
will of
supposed
the
to
people,
appear
but
on
to
the
bend to the
chat,
will
right?
of one man, Donald Trump. In
So wait, hold on.
1787, delegates
1,
from
2, 3,
13
4,
colonies convened
5,
in
6,
Philadelphia
7,
to debate the
8,
future of what would
9,
become the
10,
United States of
11,
America. Our
12,
founders disagreed
13,
on a lot of
14,
things.
15, 16,
But you know, they all
17
agreed on
drinks,
one thing for sure.
and
They did not want a king.
hold on, 17 drinks.
They did not want a monarch.
Oh my, but that's
Many of them
just,
had been
it's
there,
just,
done that.
I
They
believe
didn't
it says
want to
it's
see
just
it
sip,
and feel
like
it
a
again.
drink of water. So
They set up
17,
this intricate system of checks
and then you,
and
oh gosh,
balances
1,
to ensure that we would never have that
2,
all-powerful king in this country.
3,
That system of checks and balances
4,
is being pushed to a dangerous limit
40
here today.
push-ups.
But that system will
How do you guys have so many
prevail.
points already?
Along with it,
That was supposed to be hard to
democracy.
achieve.
here are just some of the claims that Donald
A
Trump and his legal
backfire
team
day, huh?
have made.
All right, so I have to do 40,
that
oh
our
no, 40
our
push-ups
colleagues lend
and
credence
drink
to here
water
today.
17 times.
That Venezuela, Cuba,
I
and
appreciate
China
you
rigged
grind,
our
like
country's voting machines in favor.
taxing the system. I gotta look at this then again, but I'm gonna come through all this. I'll do this. I'll hold to my word here. So 17 drinks of water. Let's say like how much is, let's do the math. I'm gonna do the math on this so that I can just do a, let's do, let me pull this up real quick. We'll do like, how much water in a sip? Probably like what, like a tablespoon? .25 milliliters per sip. So 17 times 25. Let's do the math correct here. 425 milliliters. That's about half a liter of water. Okay, so half a liter of water and 40 push-ups that you've forced upon me. you basically cashed in all your chips at once. The water thing might be, if that gets abused to a point where it's like annoying, I might end up calling that one. Stop the count. Okay. I actually don't have water on me right now. By the way, this was all Doom Kaiser's idea to put these points, redeemable points. Maybe 100 is too easy, huh? Get 300 just for following. Oh my gosh. Okay. I might need to recalibrate the points on these. I'll be right back. Okay, I'll do my first set of push-ups just so I can get them out of the way. Okay, on the couch. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't actually really fit on that couch very well. Okay. Okay, so this is half a liter right here. So if I drink this, do I want to play Bed Wars later? I don't know. I might die of water poisoning by then. So if I drink this, this is about half a liter. I'll get through it. You stacked them on me. Okay, let's move this thing. Let's move. So this, I want this to be centered, but it's not exactly right. Oh, there's time. You can set time limits. Okay, let me look at this real quick because this is. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna. Oh, I can review. Oh my. Okay, so here's my. This is my rewards queue. So I have. Wait, I have to mark these as complete. Hold on. So I've done like at least a couple sips. I'm marking these as complete. Oh no, and you joined in as well? You guys are straight trying to kill me. Oh my god. Let me see. Let me get in here. Manage rewards. I gotta manage this better. Let me see. What do we got here? Manage. Wait, where's the timer on here? Wait, edit. Cool down. Oh, here's the cool down limits. All right, we're putting in it. We're gonna do. Oh, and I can change limit redemptions per stream, limit redemptions per user per stream. Okay, you guys, you abuse. This is what happens when people abuse systems. Is then the rules get stricter. And that's what's going on right now. So I'm gonna change this. 5-1 limit redemptions per stream. Max total redemption for viewers. We can leave this at like, this is probably fine. And then for redemptions per user stream, for this one, yeah, probably about right. Cooldown. Probably, yeah, makes sense. That water one is way too cheap. That's got to be increased. The couch one is 2,000. That might be. The push-up one is a little. Okay, I modified it a little bit, so hopefully it's not going to get too crazy. How I have 27 more requests for hydration. Nathan, I thought you were a nice one. I thought you were the nice one. But you decided to jump in with these hydrates. Okay, so what do I have to do real quick? All requests. Okay, I'll just get through the rest of these. So I'm just gonna mark these as complete as I drink. I'm going to be peeing so much soon. Wait, what happened to the couch push-ups? Okay. Oh, that's a different Nathan. Okay, good. My faith in you has been restored. I was supposed to do, I think there was, what was there, 4? I think there was 4. Somehow, for some reason, the couch ones disappeared. Oh, you're from 7th. We got it. Okay, let me take a look and let me double check this. So I made the hydrate one cost a little bit more, and I put some cool downs on it because I can't just be chugging water all night. And then the push-ups one I made it a little bit more, and I also put a cool down on it. Okay. You guys are gonna make me sick with water, I swear. Okay. I think I have to do another set of push-ups though, huh? I don't know why I did this to myself. So all right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm gonna spread those out a little bit because I'm honestly full of water. And I don't want to throw up water all over the place. Okay. What do I need to do here? I want to make this like an actual opening. So let's actually, so I can, this is a little annoying to build. So let's do a staircase down from here. Okay, so we'll have our little train get out of here, and then this will go down. I'm gonna have to rebuild this. Let's make this one more wide. Shoot, it's kind of awkward to be 3 wide if I'm having it come from a 2 wide. Or actually, let's make it 4 wide. So let's pull it over one more. So put that there. It's just everything goes over 1. And then it'll fit. And then these. So this will be like a little bit of an entryway, I guess. And let's grab some lanterns. Oops. No, I can't do your homework for you, dude. You got to do your own homework. I can help you with specific questions if you get stuck on them. But I'm not going to like do everything for you. Where do I not have any lanterns? Shoot, I gotta make lanterns, huh? see. If in DNA, if there was a CG instead of a GC, is that considered to be a worse mutation than if it was a AT instead of a GC? Good question. Let me think about that. So you're saying, yeah, I mean, it would be by definition because you actually are having, in that case, you've got you essentially have two mutations, right? Because you have, not only is the C and the G changed, or excuse me, both the C and the G are changed to an A and a T rather than, oh, wait, so you have a C. Hold on. Let me write this out. So you're saying if you have an A, oh sorry, oops, I'll go back. You're saying if you have if there was a CG instead of a GC, so if it's G bonded to a C and it gets mutated to a C to a G, or if it gets mutated to an A to a T, which of these is worse? It really depends. It's hard to say because you'd have to know exactly where in the sequence this was happening. You'd have to know what the resulting protein might end up being. Like, we're going to learn about protein synthesis coming up on Thursday and Friday. So this question will get answered at that point. And it would depend on essentially if when this is red, if it creates a different amino acid in the protein or not. But just sort of as a hunch, I would probably say that this one is worse. Just because, actually, you know what? It's probably the same. It's probably the same. Or you wouldn't know. You'd have to look at it in the context of the entire sequence. Hold on to that thought though, because we're going to learn about mutations next time in class. So it's not a very straightforward, clear cut situation. There's more going on in that, more involved. You're thinking ahead though. You're thinking to what we're going to get into next time, and also a little bit about what we're going to get into early next week too. Keep falling. We're going to need to probably cover this up a little bit. You know what I realized the problem is with those channel rewards is because I'm actually not looking at the Twitch chat. I'm looking at Restream, which combines Twitch and YouTube chat into one chat. So I don't think I'm seeing some of the stuff that's popping up in the chat, which might be a problem for that kind of stuff. I have to think about how to do that. Let's actually, I don't need these as stairs. Boom, boom. Wait, by free nucleotides, where do those nucleotides come from? Are they just in the nucleus of the cell? Yeah, so they're just sort of floating around in the nucleus of the cell. Nucleotides, if you remember, nucleotides are the way they're made by your body through a process in the cell, and then they're just available to be used during DNA replication. Nathan, Nathan, you redeemed another hydrate, didn't you? There you go, my dude. Let me look at my, yes, you did. Complete report. GlitchCon. Nice. Mark is complete. Alright, apparently we're not sleeping, so. Yeah, I'll put these. I like that idea up there. Okay. Maybe. Ooh, I need more slabs up there. Someone's AFK. That's the issue. That's complete. God. Talk about the zombie apocalypse. Wait, where did all these zombies come from? Stuff's not being lit up properly, I don't think, anymore. I wish I didn't have that aspect of fire on this sword. It's kind of annoying. Okay. I think we'll just do that as the entrance, and then we'll do something, I think something less complicated all the way around, because it would just take forever. Or maybe we do, yeah, maybe something small, something low profile. I don't know, I gotta think about it. But maybe I'll embellish this entrance a little bit more. A little bit of, what if we did like a hedge around the edge? Oops, I didn't mean to hit. All right,
Favor of Joe Biden.
I had to catch up on the.
That dead people voted in this election, and they only voted for Joe Biden. That poll watchers and election observers who risked their lives during this pandemic to uphold the integrity of our elections.
Wait, what happened here?
That stuffed ballot boxes with Biden votes, and then they shredded Trump votes. Not one. Let me repeat.
What if we do, like, what about a hedge? Would a hedge be like kind of a sick?
There is no evidence to back up these ridiculous claims. Many of these absurd claims from Donald Trump and his legal team are nothing more than conspiracy theories circulating online.
How would a hedge look?
This misinformation and dangerous rhetoric from the president and his allies, including calls for violence, have
Maybe a
polluted our
hedge
discourse
interspersed here and there with like.
Imperiled our peaceful transfer of power. And when our colleagues show indifference or outright support for these unsubstantiated claims and conspiracy theories, they lead our nation and our Constitution down a dangerous, dangerous path.
What if he did something like that?
All of us who serve here swore an oath to support and defend our
Would that
Constitution.
actually look good, or would that look?
I swore that
kinda
same oath
bad?
as a naval flight officer many times, as a midshipman before that. But all of us here have sworn support and defend our Constitution, not our political party, and certainly not any individual candidate. Colleagues, for the safety of our citizens and our republic, we must lead by example. We must turn the temperature down. It was a hard-fought campaign, but the campaign is over. The votes have been counted.
I don't know if I like that.
The
I
count
think
has been
it's kinda
certified in
weird.
all 50 states. And in 2 weeks, on January 20th, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States, as they should be. We have serious and urgent challenges that will require working together with our new president, our new vice president, with one another in this chamber, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and with our colleagues over in the House of Representatives. What's on our to-do list? Well, we can start with making sure that hundreds of millions of Americans get vaccinated. That we get off the dime and start vaccinating. We vaccinated 4 million people last month. 4 million. We're supposed to vaccinate 20. How are we ever going to get to 250 million at this rate? What else is on our to-do list? We're getting our kids back to school. We got kids that are unable to get on the internet, unable to participate in their classes. They may not have any adult supervision at home. They're struggling. They're falling even further behind. We need to do something to help them. What else is on our to-do list? Getting their parents back to work, just to name a few things. Think of all the millions of people who lost jobs and they don't have skills anymore to fill the jobs that are needed. They need our help. They need to be retooled and retrained. It's time to stop trying to overturn the will of the people and get back to working on their behalf. President Abraham Lincoln has been quoted a couple of times here tonight, but he observed at the end of the Gettysburg
Like a
Address,
royal,
that ours is, quote, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
A royal entryway.
Even in the midst of his Civil War, President Lincoln put his unwavering weight and his unwavering faith in the people to chart our nation's course.
What are they doing?
We
Trying
would be
finish
wise
this
to
or-
remember Lincoln's words at this moment, at this special moment in our nation's history. We're not a government of Trump, by Trump, and for Trump. We're a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the people have spoken. The people have spoken. Our job here today is to listen to them. I intend to do that. And I trust that my colleagues will join me in doing that as well. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
President.
I keep
Senator's
not remembering how
recognized.
this is built. Okay, so
President, first I want to thank all of the
I do the same thing on this side as I do the other side. So I have to put a staircase.
today, protect those electoral college ballots. Today is a special day. On a day when some 2,500 or more Americans will lose their lives to the coronavirus.
Yes.
When another 130,000 will be hospitalized with it. When hundreds of small businesses will close their doors and put thousands of Americans out of work. On this day, the United States Senate is not debating how to get more life-saving vaccines into Americans' arms or how to put 2,000 badly needed dollars into their
that's why I put
pockets.
that up
No,
there.
instead we are using the first
So you gotta
days
get
of
rid
the
of
new
that.
Senate and Congress to give time to our radical Republican colleagues' faceless and damaging claims of election fraud, all in an attempt to keep Donald Trump in office in violation of the United States Constitution. There's a word for this. It's called sedition. All these unfounded objections to state electors are seditious. They are nothing short of an insurrection against the established order of the United States Constitution and our democratic republic. This is an historically shameful day for the Senate and for our country. To be clear, the notion that there are any meaningful voter fraud that has been identified in the 2020 presidential election is a dangerous, anti-democratic, treasonous fiction. Joe Biden won Donald Trump lost.
Why?
Period.
So here's the thing. Like, why are they
That
all
hasn't
saying
stopped
this
the
now?
president and his
Like, why is
supporters
everyone
from
coming out
making
and saying like,
allegations
oh,
of
all
voter
this like fraud
in some
is
60
not
legal
actual fraud and
challenges
it's fake?
across the
Like,
country,
there's
heard
never
by
been any
some
evidence for it
90
anyway. So I don't know
judges,
why
including
they're like all of a
Trump
sudden now
judicial
coming out
court
when like,
chiefs.
oh, like,
Not
well now
one of
since
these
people
challenges succeeded.
stormed the
Not
Capitol
one.
building in like an unprecedented
despite
event, now we can say
this
like,
reality,
okay, it's too much.
My
It's like,
radical
where were you
Republican
guys like?
colleagues claim we must have a commission
weeks ago,
to
months
investigate
ago?
the fraud. Well, we do
kinda
know
like a weird
one of the
move,
most
right? I don't know, it feels
undeniable
weird to me.
instances of substantial and significant election fraud ever. We even have a recording and a transcript of it. It's President Trump talking like a mafia boss to the Georgia Secretary of State, a Republican no less, pressuring and threatening him to fix the election in Trump's favor and holding out the prospect of criminal prosecution if he doesn't. Find me 11,780 votes.
Yeah,
Trump
he's
said.
probably
Well,
been doing this the whole
someone
time.
should find Donald Trump a real lawyer.
All of a sudden,
and
everyone in
measure him
Congress is
for an
outraged.
orange
Give me a break.
jumpsuit, because the list of statutes that this latest shocking presidential phone call may violate is too long to recite. The president's words on that phone call, indeed, his conduct since the election,
All right,
demand
that
a
looks
serious response. One
correct now,
much more serious
symmetrical
than
at
the
least.
sham before us today. First, federal and state law enforcement authorities should investigate Donald Trump for election fraud, extortion, conspiracy, and whatever other charges fit the bill. If warranted, indict and try him for any crimes
what
he
if I
has
did
committed.
this?
Second,
Boom,
we must recognize that Donald Trump
That
is
look
and will remain
bad?
a danger to our Constitution
That
and our
bad?
democracy.
Looking-
So while time is certainly limited, we should impeach Trump again.
What are some other
and bar
blocks
him
I can
from holding
place?
office in the future.
Mix it up
And
here.
finally, we should abolish the Electoral College. It is a vestige of a racist
Oh,
Jim
wow, he
Crow
wants to
America,
abolish the
and
Electoral
we
College.
have outgrown it.
Wait, who's this?
Every person's vote in every state should count just the same. One person, one vote. Election fraud
Maybe some quartz?
and reform are very serious
Chiseled
issues.
quartz blocks?
Election reform absolutely should be debated in Congress, which is why instead of today's kabuki theater, I invite my Republican colleagues to stand up and say, yes, we need to protect and expand voting rights and election security. We need automatic voter registration. We need online voter registration. We need same-day voter registration. We should make Election
gonna
Day
look
a
bad.
federal holiday. We should restore
Yeah, it
voting
looks
rights
bad.
to people with prior felony convictions. We should support independent redistricting commissions.
what would
Let's
look good
spend
on
our
this?
time on the floor debating that.
put lanterns all
debating
down the
how to
edge.
reduce the influence of big money in our political system, to slow the revolving door between government officials and lobbyists, to stop gerrymandering and voter suppression. That's the real election reform that we should be debating and supporting, not these shameful, craven, baseless objections. More than 350,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus. That is the truth. Nearly 8 million people have fallen into poverty because of the economic crisis caused by this virus. That is the truth. Wearing a mask saves lives. Vaccines are safe and effective. That is the truth. Joe Biden won. Donald Trump lost. That is the truth. I urge all my Senate colleagues to vote against these objections, affirm our democracy, and recognize that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will rightfully be sworn in on January 20th as the President and Vice President of the United States.
The senator from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today was a stomach-churning, gut-wrenching moment in our history. And truly, it was an assault on the heart of our democracy. And I want to join in thanking the first responders and police. But I also want to thank others who have been heroes of our democracy, unsung in many instances. First, all of the election officials, all the poll workers, all of the members of boards of election who actually counted the votes, who went to the polls and make sure that votes could be cast, and who ultimately stood firm for the integrity of that voting system. I want to thank the judges. There are now about 90 of them who except for one or two who ruled the other way on a technicality, have stood firm for the integrity
I actually
of
don't
that
really even need
voting
this.
system. In those 60 to 70 cases, except for that one ruled on a technicality, they went with the integrity of our voting system and the rule
Rail
of law.
system anymore.
Today was indeed disgusting and sickening. It was
What up, Doomkaiser? Yeah.
shocking.
By the way, dude, you
despicable.
screwed me over today by having me make those
It
those
was
channel
heartbreaking.
reward points.
But
Like-
it was not surprising. In
I don't know,
fact,
like APA.
today's assault on our democracy, the mob violence, the
Kai,
riots, the
You're a
thugs
kid
and
now. They all
goons
they had all like
who
stashed
were
up,
inspired and
seeming like
incited by
thousands
the
of
President of the
points,
United
and they just
States,
cashed them in and made me chug water and do
all were
push-ups.
of a piece
I still haven't finished. I still have
with
2 more sets of 10 to do for those
these
push-ups.
past 4 years of a president who has no respect for the truth
Shit, I gotta even.
or the rule of law. Donald Trump's presidency is coming to a
Oh,
close
and Nathan too.
in the
Nathan
very
chimed
same
in
way
with
it
throwing some
began,
water my way.
with an attack on our democracy.
Was it all? Was it all a ruse? Was it all?
2016, the Trump
Was it at
campaign
your master plan this
welcomed
whole time?
hostile foreign interference with our election, and the president refused to acknowledge that he would accept the
All right, fair
results
enough.
of the election if he lost. And then again
Finished.
and again and again, he
Okay, let
demonstrated
me pull this
his
down.
contempt for the rule of law and for the laws themselves. He obstructed justice. And he would have been charged with it had he not been the President of the United States. He invited a foreign government
I would say hold
interfere
off.
in our elections.
It's also not great that I did chest and tris
political
yesterday when I worked out, so I'm already really sore. Now I'm having to do
And
push-ups.
most
Okay,
disturbing-
I gotta redeem my set. I'll do one more set right now.
These actions by a president who demonstrated that contempt for the rule of law were met with silence from many political leaders, our colleagues here in the Senate among them. Silence in the face of that contempt for the rule of law and disrespect for the law enforcers. So we could have seen today coming. In fact, we did. I warned about it.
I don't really
others
have a
did,
home gym. I have a
because the fantasies and falsehoods that drove those
I have
rioters,
some weights.
not protesters,
Like I have
mob who assaulted
2
the
of
temple of
those
democracy
Bowflex adjustable dumbbells that I
fueled
bought like years and
by
years and years ago that are really nice.
the president
I have a bench
with
with
statements and lies
a bar.
and contempt for the truth.
I have another like a free barbell
and he
and I have a
was
pull-up
enabled.
bar.
He
So I
had
have
been.
like just the basics to do
So
pretty much all the
today
upper body
we
workouts I
are
need. Can't really do any weighted lower body. I just don't have enough weight
in
and the right equipment to
one
do
instance
lower body, so
that enabling.
you know.
But we must also make sure to stop it going
I can
forward.
pretty much only do lower body if I want to do like
And the political stunt that brought us here today offers
if I want to
no
do
great solace.
body weight stuff. Or I guess I could technically hold dumbbells
These
and do
stunts
like
have consequences. We
squats
say
and
words
stuff.
have
And I could technically put a barbell on my back, but
and
I usually just
actions
run and do body weight
today
stuff for lower body.
will have significant consequences.
Oh yeah,
They
everything
are
is
an attack
it's
on our
extremely expensive.
democracy.
And the reason why it's so
Undermines
expensive is because you're
important
actually getting a
of
lot of
American
like
government.
metal is not
And
super cheap
A
for a couple
disrespect
reasons. One is
will
like you're using a lot of
prevent
ore,
peaceful
right? You have to like
transition
mine a lot of that. And then the
power
other thing
and
is
the political
it's
stunts
expensive to
themselves
ship
driven
because they're so
by
heavy,
opportunity
right? And they're not easy to store just because of the sheer
lays a
weight of
path
them.
that can be followed by
So
more
usually,
competent,
what is it? It's like usually from what I remember, it's about
just
like
as
$1 a pound, right? So if you want like a $45 plate, it's like
and
40,
action
it's like 50
of this
bucks.
president can be followed
If I haven't bought
by
them in a long
more
time. This was
effective
this was like
would-be tyrants
7 years ago probably when I purchased
intent
my
on
equipment.
destroying our republic.
7,
Yes,
8
we
years ago?
have more important
Okay, so this
tasks
so far, that's
that
all
we should
right.
be addressing as well.
Taper this
The
down.
pandemic, the economic revival.
Two a pound.
Today,
Yikes.
we must be mindful of the threat to our democracy that we face down. and we come together on a bipartisan basis. But silence is never
Yeah, maybe it was more. I might just be misremembering how much it actually was.
at the very top of our political structure. Thank you, Mr. President.
$300 for a pair of
Mr. President.
45s?
The senator from Delaware is recognized.
Mr. President, I have a question for all of my colleagues this evening, which is what
It's like almost
happened
$4 a
here
pound.
today? And how is it different from what we expected as we assembled in this chamber early this afternoon? Much sadly, much like the impeachment trial of just a year ago.
Oh my
I think
God.
as many of
Where are
us
all these
slogged our
zombies
way
coming
to the
from?
nation's capital and dutifully filed into this chamber, we expected hours and hours of debate and discussion, knowing the outcome.
Where are these flood of
knowing
zombies
that what
constantly
was being
spawning from?
engaged in by a handful of our colleagues was a political stunt.
I also heard that those
feeding the
those
ego of our
adjustable
president, who
dumbbells,
is
the
chasing
Bowflex adjustable
conspiracy
dumbbells,
theories
have like
about how he
skyrocketed in
actually
value
won
because of the
election 2 months ago that he lost,
the pandemic. Everyone started
indulging
trying to buy
his
like
belief
home
that
workout
somehow
stuff, and those
somehow
those adjustable dumbbells
the
are
Congress could still,
really
at the
good
last
value,
moment, snatch victory from the jaws of
because you have like,
even in the
you know,
last day,
you've got
President Trump
every
had been
kind of weight
haranguing
you
his
really
own
need
incredibly loyal Vice
in
President
one,
Mike Pence, as if somehow
you know.
Vice President Pence would simply declare him president today. We knew that President Trump had been stirring up the spirits of thousands, urging them to come to Washington. He might go out and speak to them, but I don't think as we filed into this chamber, any of us expected that for the second time in our republic's history, the perimeter of this Capitol would be breached. Members of the Senate would be rushed.
This
to
is looking
safety.
pretty lame. I don't
And
like
not
this
just
actually
the
what I'm
Capitol
doing here.
Police,
This looks
but
bad.
U.S. Marshals and FBI officers and fully combat geared
Looks bad.
soldiers would be
I like the
in
idea of a
United
hedge
States
style,
Capitol,
but
taking it back
these blocks just don't look
from
good
a
with it.
ravenous mob of thugs. Just a few moments ago, I went to the rotunda to see the litter and the trash. The residue.
No, the Bowflex ones are not electric.
Those
They're
who
like
took over this building
here, let me
today,
let me see.
and to say
Oh,
thank
App, I
you
already got your.
to the men and
here,
women
let me
of law
see.
enforcement who helped
The
secure
Bowflex
it.
one, they're just mechanically
after it
adjustable.
fell
So like you
to
just
an
turn a
angry
little
mob.
dial on the end of
But
it.
folks, we have to think about the consequences of what happened here today. Why this happened.
And it
what
adjusts it.
means, and what it teaches. Because frankly, tonight
It looks
now,
like these
the
here.
whole world is watching. The entire world is watching.
Like this is 350
A
bucks for
montage of
these, right?
scenes
I actually
folks
bought these
cavorting in the
used for
Capitol,
$250. Actually, I got a pretty good
half-naked
deal on
men
these back
taking
in
that seat,
a while ago.
scrawling
But so
names
basically
on
what you
different
do is
surfaces,
you turn this
parading
little
up and down
dial,
the Capitol corridors
and then
with a
it
Confederate flag,
it
with a
sort of
Trump
like
flag, and in
it
other ways
grabs
signaling
some of
that
these
they had done
weights
something
and leaves some behind. So let's say if you have it at the max, like
No,
at
in
50,
fact, what
this
they've
one
actually
is
done
52 pounds is
weakened our
the heaviest. So
democracy,
if you have it set
showed
at
some of its
52, when you
fragility,
lift this up, the entire
and
thing goes with
encouraged
it.
our opponents
But then let's say you
around
dial
the
it to
world.
like 45.
In the
When you
last
lift
2
it up,
months since the
like
election,
one of these plates might
we have
on
one
either
man
side will stay
who
behind,
has abandoned his post,
making it
who has
lighter.
mostly spent
So
his
this
time
dial like
golfing
sort
and
of
tweeting and
mechanically
indulging
adjusts which ones get
himself in
connected.
conspiracy
What's up,
theories
Shravan?
and been less and less
How goes it,
attuned
my
to our
dude?
national security and to a raging pandemic.
So
And another
they're
man
really,
on
it's pretty
president-elect
good.
who is
You can kind
preparing
of
to
see the
take
idea
over
here, the internal
responsibility
working
for
of it.
leading this country out of this pandemic and out of its current state of deep, deep division.
The problem with
Trump has
these
abandoned his
52.5 pounds is good for
He does not
beginners, but if you
deserve
want to
to be
use
president
more than
any longer.
52, which
he
you
poses a real and
might
present
eventually
threat
need to,
the
they
future
also
of our
sell
democracy.
the
But let me also
1090s,
say this to my
which go up to
colleagues,
90 pounds. But the
half of whom
price,
changed their
the
intended
price,
vote
you could buy a
today
decent computer
after
for that
seeing
price.
what happened in the Capitol.
These ones you can adjust
There
up to
were, as we
90
began, roughly
in increments
13
of looks like 5.
senators,
These are actually pretty
Republicans, who
nice.
said they were going to
I would
vote
actually get these if I could go back.
against the certification
Having
of
that
the
extra
election.
weight is actually nice.
And when we actually finally called the roll, it was just 6.
They come with this
7 of them
pretty
having been
sick
chastened
stand
by the
too.
events of today.
These are nice. These are really
but
nice.
2 who continue
But
on this quest clerked for the Supreme
759
Court
pounds.
Chief Justice,
However,
are
it is way
deeply
cheaper
schooled in the law,
than buying
know better
2 sets of
than
every
what they
single
did
increment
today.
here.
And in the count and the debate going on over in the House, even now, more than 100 House Republicans continue with
I'm
this
gonna get rid of
vote.
these.
On
These
this
aren't
floor
looking
earlier
good.
today,
this
I
evening.
want to make a
There were
wall
strong
that
and clear
looks
and brave
that's
speeches by
simple,
Republicans and Democrats
slim, but looks
alike.
nice.
So I have
And
a
I want it to
question
have
as we
like a
move forward.
hedge look to it.
When will
And
this
I'm not,
fever
I don't know. What if I
break?
put?
When will we finally say to each other, enough is enough of indulging and following
Wait, what
populism
about
and
this
demagoguery?
thought here? What if I did this?
Is it time to finally show who the leaders are and to uphold our
that
Constitution
looks bad, too.
that every one of the House members and a third of us swore to uphold just 3 days ago? I will tell you as I look ahead that I am
What up,
confident
Dr. Fat
2
Man?
weeks from now, Joseph
Jones
Biden
barbecue
will
and
be
foot
sworn in
massage.
as the next president. Kamala Harris sworn in as the next
Good
vice
meme.
president. And we have a
Chiseled
unique
on the
moment in my
bottom
lifetime.
and leaf on top.
Because as presidents and leaders in the Senate of both parties over the last
Yeah, I know
decades
that's
have
you,
observed,
Srikanth.
the Senate has steadily shrunk in its significance, its role.
So you're
and
saying
its power.
chiseled on
The
bottom,
presidency has steadily grown. Not in my lifetime.
Leaf
not
on
since
top.
LBJ have we had
see how
an
that looks.
incoming president who spent 36
wait,
years.
this is Srikanth.
in this
That is
chamber.
Soko Moki.
We have a chance with Joe Biden.
Y'all confusing me.
President-elect who ran on bringing our country together. A president-elect who ran on turning the page from our moment of
How does
national
this look?
division. A president-elect who respects
Oop.
and honors and understands the significance of this body.
Eh,
So we have to take this opportunity
I'm still not happy with that
to
look.
heal, to hear each other, to compromise, to work together, and to see the real challenges facing the American people and take this last, best
Srikanth, you have a
moment.
badge next to your name that says
What happened here today
GLHF. Good luck, have
should
fun.
leave all of us gravely concerned about the health and the future of our democracy, and the opportunity we will have 2 weeks
Where
from
did that
today
come from?
is one we should not let pass us by. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
The senator from Massachusetts is recognized.
You want
Mr.
a hedge
President,
sandwich,
more than
Ace? You want a hedge
350,000
sandwich?
of
So
our
we go
loved ones
here,
have died from a
and
terrible
then we
disease.
go
Small businesses have gone under, never to reopen.
This on top.
Millions have lost their jobs. And
Let's
too many
see.
families don't know how they're going to pay the rent or put
I'm thinking it's not
groceries
gonna
on
look
the
so
table.
good.
It is tough out there. But Americans are
It's not
fighters.
bad.
And despite all the challenges,
But I would prefer it not to
in
be so
November,
tall.
They did
I kinda
what
want it just to be a
Americans
two
do
ru-
when they
just
are
too high.
unhappy with their leadership.
2 blocks high.
They voted for change. They turned their
What if we do
backs
slab
a
on
sitting
bottom,
president who fans the flames of hatred
hedge in the
while
middle? What if we do a
bodies
slab
pile up in
hedge
the morgue?
sandwich?
Instead,
A
they
slamwich,
elected a new
as I call
president
it.
who wants to
Let's
save
see.
lives, to save our
Would that look
economy,
good? I'm
and
still
to
thinking it's not gonna
save
look
our
too hot.
democracy. Even as the pandemic raged, Americans showed up for democracy. States worked overtime to set up safe systems. Ballot
Oh,
drop
that's bad. I
boxes,
forgot you can't
early
place-
voting, and gallons of hand sanitizer.
Yeah, you can't place that.
Voters mailed their ballots earlier, put on masks, and stood in line at the polls. The election of 2020
Maybe I'll look it up real
shattered
quick and see if
voting
anyone's got
records.
any kind of
So here
cool
we
looking.
are on the floor of the United States Senate in the aftermath of an historic
fences.
election held in the middle
Say, like,
of a pandemic. People are suffering, and we should be
Short,
working
simple
to get them the
wall,
help they
simple
need.
walls.
Instead,
Minecraft.
we are here because Donald Trump wants to overturn the results of that election. The Republicans objecting to the results of this election
You can make an
will
interesting
be
wall with only.
judged
Yeah,
by
that's
history.
true. You might be right.
The
Like
rest
I
of
might be
us
trying to. It
will
might be like
judged as well. It is
if I only
our
want it 2 blocks high,
responsibility
it
to
might
stand
be
up
impossible
for
to make
our
it look really
democracy,
good.
even while other senators work
Oops,
to
that's not the
undermine
right
it.
window. Too many
Losing
windows
is
open right now.
hard. I ran for president myself. It was a hard-fought primary, but Joe Biden won and I lost. I am not the only one to live through that. A number of senators in this room have run for president. None of us was successful. And when we lost, we conceded and we got out of the race because that is how democracy works.
Actually, that's not bad. This one's
None
not
of
too
us
bad.
lied about the results.
This
we
one
didn't
here?
throw temper
That's kind of-
tantrums. We didn't tell
that's
our
what?
allies in Congress or the states to overturn the results. We didn't feed
2.5 blocks
poisonous
high with that little-
propaganda to our supporters. We didn't urge
That's
people
kind of simple.
to
I like
march
that one
on
with the little
state
wood fence in
capitals
there.
or to descend on
And then maybe
Washington.
instead of like in
We
between, maybe it's
accepted
a hedge
the will of the voters.
instead of another.
And
Let's
it's
try that.
not
Let's see what that looks
just
like.
us. It's
Let's do that.
everyone who has run for
Let's take-
president since the beginning of America. Only once, once in America's history have the people who lost tried to burn down our democracy on the way out. They caused a civil war that nearly destroyed our nation. Make no mistake, the violence we witnessed in this chamber today was the direct result of the poisonous lies that Donald Trump repeated again and again for more than 2 months.
Okay, I'm
His
gonna.
words have consequences.
I'm gonna redeem.
Our
I know that I had one
democracy has
more
been grievously
set of
injured
push-ups that
by
you guys
this
made me do. So
lying
I'll
coward.
do those because I'm not gonna
This
renege on
effort to
that.
support democracy
I think it was right.
is
4?
not
Was it
merely
4?
One last presidential tantrum.
Here's the last one.
This effort is designed to knock out the basic pillar on which democracy is founded. The idea that the voters, not the sitting president and not the members of Congress, but the voters decide who will lead this nation. A democracy in which the elected leaders do not bend to the will of the voters is no democracy. It is a
We are done.
totalitarian state.
You guys made me do 40
And
push-ups
those who pursue this effort are supporting
and drink half a liter
coup.
water.
I urge my colleagues to vote
For
no
what?
on this effort to overthrow our democracy. I yield, Mr. President.
The
Shravan.
senator from Alaska is recognized.
Ask that the Senate stand in recess, subject
You
to
like
the
my
call of the
cut?
chair.
Without objection.
What does that mean? You like my cut? By the way, I also designed. So today I spent some time designing some badges for the Twitch channel because I thought it'd be kind of cool if there was like badges. But then I realized you can only get badges if you subscribe, which is kind of annoying. I thought I would be able to have you guys have badges for just simply for following for a long enough period of time, but Twitch, they have to get their money, right? So they don't want you to be able to give too much cool stuff to people. So let me see, where did I have? I'll show you. If you go to, so here's the badges I designed. So you can kind of see, like, I made, like for each time frame, and it's basically based off of like the belt system in jiu-jitsu. So it's like the J in Jones just looks like a belt, and it has different colors. So when you first subscribe, which I was hoping it would be like when you first follow, you would have like for the first month you would have the white color down here at the bottom, these white ones, and then the little metal, silver or gold, is for like the tier. So this is like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And then if you've been subbed for 1 month, it goes to blue. And then if you get subbed for 2 months, it goes to purple. And then I think it goes 6 months to brown, 9 months to black, and then if it's a year, it's the coral belt, the red one. And then the tiers are the so. But it's kind of a bummer. I was hoping that it would just give it to all the followers. It's kind of annoying, but it's the way Twitch is. I have another hydrate, Nathan? Wait, since where? Let me see. Where's the hydrate? Where's my... Oh. Wait, I have 2 now because T-Blazer came in. Had to, of course... All right, let me grab... I ran out of water. I gotta get more. Okay, let's get my I got my water. So this is for Nathan. Cheers, and then this one is for you, T-Blaze. I think I needed to make a little sound for me or something when someone does this, because I keep not noticing it. The Senate stands in recess, subject to call of chair. Okay. It looks like we're done with that, right? We heard from all of the... Oh, wait, they're coming back.
Senate will come to order.
Mr. President,
I think we're going to call it.
I know no further debate.
No further debate. Is this it?
Pursuant to S-Con Res 1.
This is
and
the
Section
official
17
call
Title
of the election?
3, the United States Code. When the two houses withdraw from the joint session to count the electoral vote for separate consideration of an objection, a senator may speak to the objection for 5 minutes, not more than once. Debate shall not exceed 2 hours, after which the chair will put the question, shall the objection be sustained? The clerk will report the objection made in the joint session.
Objection from Senator Hawley from Missouri and Representative Perry from Pennsylvania. A United States Senator and member of the House of Representatives object to the counting of the electoral votes on the state of Pennsylvania on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given.
So there's still some Republicans holding out. Okay. Well, we'll see.
Majority Leader.
Let's see. So I want to do
If there's no further debate,
this wall a little bit. So we'll do a bottom, and then what is that? One.
if there's no further debate,
One,
the question shall be, shall the objection
3, 4,
submitted by the
5?
gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, the senator from Missouri, Mr. Hawley, be sustained? Is there a sufficient second? The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Barrasso, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, no. Mrs. Blackburn. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Blumenthal.
No.
Mr. Blunt.
Go.
Mr. Blunt, no. Mr. Booker. Mr. Booker, no. Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Braun. Mr. Braun, no. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, no. Mr. Burr.
I need a bunch of fencing.
Mr. Burr, no. Ms. Cantwell. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mrs. Capito. Mrs. Capito, no. Mr. Cardin. Mr. Cardin, no. Mr. Carper. Mr.
I need.
Carper,
Can I just make fence
no.
from planks?
Mr. Casey.
No, I need
Casey, no. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Ms.
Why are there so many
Collins,
cats
no.
around? Holy!
Mr.
I'm hearing cats everywhere.
Mr. Coons.
What
no.
in God's name is happening over here? This is.
Cornyn, no. Ms. Cortez
Oh
Masto.
my.
Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Mr. Cotton.
So many cats.
Cotton, no. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kramer, no. Mr. Crapo.
Why do I have
Crapo,
this stuff
no.
in my inventory?
Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz, aye. Mr. Daines. Mr. Daines,
What is it?
no. Ms. Duckworth. Ms. Duckworth, no. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Durbin, no. Ms. Ernst. Ms. Ernst, no. Mrs. Feinstein.
Oh, turtle shell?
Mrs. Feinstein, no. Mrs. Fisher.
Is it
Mrs.
rare or something?
Fisher, no. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, no. Mr. Grassley.
Actually,
Mr. Grassley, no. Mr. Haggerty. Mr. Haggerty, no. Ms. Harris. Ms. Hassan. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Hawley. Mr. Hawley, aye.
Oak.
Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Heinrich, no. Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Hickenlooper, no. Ms. Hirono. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven, no. Mrs. Hyde Smith. Mrs. Hyde Smith.
when a baby turtle grows into an adult, it's-
Aye.
yeah.
Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inhofe, no. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, no. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, no. Mr.
1,
Kennedy.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Mr.
and then-
Kennedy, no. Mr. King. Mr. King.
I like that. That's fair
no.
enough. That's
Ms.
good enough.
Klobuchar.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ms.
5.
Klobuchar, no. Mr. Langford. Mr. Langford, no. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leahy, no. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, no. Mrs. Leffler. Mrs. Leffler, no. Mr. Lujan. Mr. Lujan, no. Miss Lummis. Miss Lummis, aye. Mr. Manchin.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Mr. Manchin, no. Mr. Markey. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall, aye. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McConnell, no. Mr. Menendez.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna call it a night. I think it's getting
Merkley.
late for me.
Mr.
I did
Merkley,
kind of what I want to do.
No. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran, no. Ms. Murkowski.
Yeah, I'll finish up this fence later, unless
Murkowski,
anyone else is gonna
no.
finish it up.
Mr.
But
Murphy. Mr. Murphy, no. Mrs.
wait,
Murray.
1, 2,
Mrs.
3.
Murray, no. Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul, no. Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Portman. Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed, no. Mr. Risch. Mr. Risch,
Oh wait,
no.
did I mess this up? Hold on a
Mr.
second.
Romney.
One, wait, 1, 2,
Romney,
3, 4,
no.
5.
Miss
1, 2,
Rosen.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Miss Rosen.
Yeah, those lanterns are a nice little touch. Wait, can
Mr.
you put
Rounds.
lanterns on top of hedges?
Mr. Rounds.
Or no?
No. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Rubio, no. Mr. Sanders.
That'd be kind of cool if you could put
Mr.
lanterns up there.
Sass. Mr. Sass,
No,
no.
you can't.
Mr. Schatz. Mr. Schatz, no. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Scott of Florida. Mr. Scott of Florida,
No.
aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no. Mrs. Shaheen. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Shelby.
Oh.
Mr. Shelby, no. Miss Cinema. Miss Cinema, no. Miss Smith. Miss Smith, no. Miss Stabenow. Miss Stabenow.
So the problem with this
no.
wall, though, I'm realizing, is that
Sullivan.
with these hedges here,
Sullivan,
you can actually
no.
climb over the
Mr.
wall.
Chester.
So it's not mob-proof because you can just jump and then you're up onto this and then you're
Mr.
over.
Chester, no.
Mr.
Thune. Mr. Thune, no.
So maybe
Mr.
we
Tillis.
just.
Mr. Tillis, no. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Toomey.
Actually, let me see. Would this look
Mr.
okay
Tuberville.
if I took a
Mr. Tuberville.
What can I put on top of that hedge that would look decent?
Mr. Van Hollen.
What if I capped the hedge
No.
with like
Mr. Warner.
with a slab?
Mr. Warner. No. Ms. Warren.
That looks bad.
Ms.
That's so
Warren,
bad.
No. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse. No.
What could we put on
Mr.
top
Wicker.
of a hedge to make it
Mr.
look
Wicker,
okay and
no.
also not
Mr.
allow
Wyden.
things over it?
Mr. Wyden. No. Mr. Young.
What does a
Mr.
fence
Young,
post on there look like?
No. Miss Harris. Miss Harris. No. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mrs. Gillibrand. No. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blumenthal. No. Miss Hirono. Miss Hirono. No.
Put that
Mr.
on
Portman.
there. I mean, it looks kind of weird with a little
Mr.
spike
Portman.
like that, though.
No. Mr. Cassidy. Mr. Cassidy. No. Ms. Menendez.
Wait, but then what
Mr.
if we can put what
Menendez.
is this? This is gonna
No.
look really weird, though, huh? If I-
Kane.
oh, why is that sheet
Mr.
away down there?
Kane. No.
Can I put this up there? Let me see. I can't get up there to put it on there. There we go. That actually looks good right there. Actually, I like that. That's good. We're gonna do that. And that would probably... That still doesn't stop people from getting over the wall, though, because you can still get on there. It doesn't solve my problem. Well, you know what would solve the problem, probably? If I put a slab... No, it's not going to work either, because then it's... Oh, whatever. I don't care. It's not a big deal that they can get over.
Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders. No.
An overhang. How? Like a like with a slab or something?
On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 92. The objection is not sustained. The Secretary will notify the House of the action of the Senate, informing that body that the Senate is now ready to proceed to joint session with further counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, for the information of all of our colleagues, we don't expect additional votes tonight. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that upon the dissolution of the joint session, the Senate stand adjourned to then convene for pro forma sessions only, with no business being conducted on the following dates and times, and that following each pro forma session, the Senate adjourn until the next pro forma session. Friday, January the 8th at 10 a.m., Tuesday, January 12th at 12:30 p.m., Friday, January the 15th at 10 a.m. I further ask that when the Senate adjourns
What
on
if I did
Friday,
it under
January
it?
15th, it next convene at 12 noon on
I did it
Tuesday,
under
January
it?
19th. Further, that following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the journal of proceedings be approved to date.
I'm trying to think,
Time
like,
for the
what if I
leaders to be
did
reserved
that
for their use later in the day.
around? That'd
Finally,
take forever, though,
following
but I mean,
remarks, the
well, actually, it
Senate
wouldn't take too
proceed
long.
to a period of morning business.
But if I
with
did
senators
this...
Permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
See how that looks. Does that look... Does that block? That blocks, yep. The problem is, though, it's not going to be able to go. If I just did like a... Wait, can I hang this from a slab? Is that even going to be possible? What? Has anything been in the paper? Please, I have a few requests. That might be okay. All right, well, that's all right. Whatever. I'm kind of done with that. I'll think about it more tomorrow. The Senate is proceeding to the House for a joint session of Congress to count electoral votes. Okay, so they're going to count the votes and then declare Biden the president-elect, and then he'll be inaugurated within the next... What is it? When is inauguration day? Like January 13th or something like that? Like next week sometime? Specifically, I would like TNT duping. I don't know, man. Unfixed, as there is no suitable alternative for the property. It's the 20th? All right, thanks, Nathan. Okay, the overhang looks pretty bad. I don't like it. No overhang. So, we'll think about that later. All right, everybody. I am going to take it off. It's getting late. I will see y'all later. Get out of that. All right. Peace, peace, peace.